Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LRM Online Last Call podcast as part of the Cantina, which is a weekly Star Wars column on LRMonline.com, written by yours truly, Kyle Malone. As always, I am joined today by Cam Clark. How you doing today, Cam?
Not too bad. Yep. How's you?
It's a weekend, which is a good thing. So I'm happy about that. And today we are going to be joined also by Nick Dahl as our third wheel. Nick, how's it going, bud?
Howdy, everybody.
Most of you guys have obviously read Cam's stuff online. He does join us from time to time on Los Fanboys and other podcasts, as well as my partner for Last Call over the last few months and going all the way through episode 9 as we are reviewing each and every Star Wars movie chronologically. Nick joined us back for episode 1, and he's back today to talk about one of his favorite Star Wars movies ever. For those of you that have been keeping up, we just finished the prequel trilogy last month, so that means we are up to Solo.
Another
today.
prequel.
Yeah, technically a prequel, but I meant like the actual.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
So, yeah. So that's what we're discussing today. We're discussing Solo. And one of the main reasons why we've got Nick on, besides the fact that he's a cool guy, is Nick really does enjoy this movie. And I don't. I couldn't stand it. I really hated it, and we'll get into specifics why. While Cam was a little bit more in the middle. So look for some good heated debates and arguments while Cam tries to keep me and Nick from tearing each other's throats out.
I'm just going to start yelling loud noises at a certain point. Loud noises! Star Wars!
So, Nick, since this is a movie that you like so much, before watching it this week, when was the last time you watched Solo, and what were your feelings before watching this movie this week?
Ooh, probably a few months ago. Definitely this year. I'd say probably March is the last time I watched it.
Okay.
And yeah, I loved it last time I watched it, and I loved it last night.
What is it? We're going to go over the movie, of course, almost scene by scene, but what is it just in general that really makes you like this movie so much?
The tone, the look, and Han Solo, the character. I think I know you disagree. I think the writing's really good for the character. And I like the tone it's the closest film in tone to A New Hope, even more than the other original trilogy movies, I would say.
Okay.
And look, yeah, like, I don't know, all those classic, there's so many cool, costumes and stuff.
I got some comments on costumes. It's a complaint that I've actually had for every movie since the original trilogy, but we'll get there. Cam, same thing. Before watching it this week, when was the last time you saw this movie, and what were your feelings before watching it for this podcast? Hold on, let me set this up. For those of you that don't know, as part of Last Call, we watch these movies the week of the podcast, so that way it's like really fresh in our mind, and we can we've got these talking points that we go through every month, so that way we can kind of have a consistent approach for the podcast going through it. So Cam?
Yeah, so I've only watched it twice, and one of them was last night. So it wasn't opening weekend. I think it took me a couple of weeks to manage to get to the cinema, which kind of tells you how excited I was for Solo, because that may be the only time that's happened for a Star Wars movie that I can remember, that I've literally waited a couple of weeks before I've seen it. But I did, so that was the only time I had watched it, and then I watched it obviously last night as well. So unlike maybe with some of the other movies, this is one that I genuinely would have had to watch last night, or this week before doing it, whereas the other ones, it wouldn't have actually made much difference, I don't think, to me personally. But I would have had to watch Solo because there was a few things I had kind of forgotten about it. So,
okay.
In terms of what I thought about it, I was mediocre. All right, worth going to the cinema for. Not really worth buying on Blu-ray or anything like that. I actually watched it on sort of Sky TV, which is a pay TV thing we have here in the UK, last night, because I don't actually own the Blu-ray, and I don't think I would buy it either. It's not a movie I would watch many times.
Yeah. I'm a lot like you. I saw it around Memorial Day weekend here in the United States. Memorial Day is similar to other countries. Memorial Day for, people that have given their life in service of their country.
Yeah.
So I saw it last year. We had some family friends come and visit that week, and we all went and saw it. So other than last night, it's something I've only seen once. I definitely did need to watch it again. Just like you, Cam. My feelings before, look, I know there's a lot of people that really like this movie, and full disclosure, I'm a huge EU nerd. Those of you that have been reading the Cantina, thank you very much. The guys at LRM, of course, and some of our fans know that I'm a huge EU guy, and yes, it does affect I don't want to say necessarily just my enjoyment, but my train of thought on these new Disney movies. I haven't liked Disney's take on Han since The Force Awakens. I really feel like Disney has made him into a bumbling idiot. He definitely had some mistakes that he made in the original trilogy, but he still had a lot of on-point moments in the original trilogy. And then, of course, in the EU, he went on to be a full-blown general, took down Warlord Zinj, and, he was this really great character. And in his books that take place before the rebellion, he is one of the best pirates there is. He's not just boasting in A New Hope. He really was that good. And I believe, even though we don't get a lot of history for him in A New Hope or the original trilogy, other than when he talks about some maneuvers that he made at a battle during Empire Strikes Back, well, I don't know. I feel like Disney made him a bumbling idiot. He's just a con man that's, relied solely on luck. I don't like that. And one of my biggest complaints about this movie is they showed us the two stories I absolutely did not want to see. I didn't want to see him winning the Millennium Falcon, and I did not want to see him rescuing Chewie. I wanted to see, if you were going to do this movie, Han Solo at his prime, doing a smuggler's run. I thought that would have been so much more exciting. So that's where I'm kind of coming at.
Yeah, I can get that. I mean, I always said from the first time I watched this film that I thought that a sequel could be a lot better than the original was. Yes. Of course, it was a major flop for Disney. When we talk about Star Wars movies anyway, and the kind of money that was spent on it, it had all those production problems. You just can't see them ever making a sequel to it now. I think
Disney
that
Plus series.
I would actually welcome that, a sort of Disney Plus series with those sort of characters and exploring the next step actually could work, and it may even work better as a long form TV series as well, because I actually think they almost focused too much on Han in the movie, and less on some of the other characters. And I know it was called Solo, it's about Han Solo, but I do get where you're coming from in terms of you kind of wanted to see almost what happens next rather than the events that happened in the movie.
Yeah, we know pretty much everybody that is, even most casual Star Wars fans, knew he won the Falcon. Cause you watch the prequel or the original trilogy, he wins the Falcon from Lando, and the EU definitely made it a sabacc, as they call it here. When I was growing up reading the EU, I always said Savick. What'd you say, Cam?
Oh,
do you remember?
I don't know, because I don't know. I was younger.
I always said Savick. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure sabacc is good because of the double A, but that's
yeah. I always said sabacc because of Knights of the Old Republic. I think
you did.
I think they say it that way in it.
No, it was purely a written word for me, like you, Kyle. Yeah. So it was my own interpretation, but I honestly do not remember now. I would be lying if I said I did.
Just said, Nick, totally. It was mentioned in the EU long before Knights of the Old Republic ever came out.
You got to stop the EU poison your opinion of these other movies. It's not canon.
But so for example, there's a lot of things we all love to read, right? Everybody here loves reading. There's a lot of words and names in especially science fiction and fantasy that are completely made up names that when you first read it, you're 10, 11, 12 years old. You're guessing at how to pronounce it, and it just gets stuck in your brain.
I always remember thinking Sauron was Sauron, in Lord of the Rings when I was younger.
Same here.
And of course, it's not spelt that way. It should be Sauron, and I learned that as I was older. But it still didn't stop me getting it wrong when I was a kid. I think I read it first when I was 12, so excuses and all that.
Yep.
Comics are always that way for me until they're turned into a Marvel movie. You don't know how to pronounce the villain's name. Dormammu?
Well, what's that?
Dormammu? Dormimu?
Oh, Dormammu?
Yeah.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Yeah, great. Outstanding. Alrighty then. Let's go ahead and start talking. Let's start talking about Solo, a Star Wars movie.
Story. They're all Star Wars movies. Star Wars story.
Our Star Wars story, sorry, yeah. Solo, a Star Wars story. There was something that a lot of people complained about with Rogue One, which actually came out 2 years before this. It was the first, anthology film, and people were upset that there was no crawl. You just saw a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and boom, the movie starts. And I can remember people being upset with that. And with Solo, we got a kind of like crawl replacement, almost like what they do with the comic books. And you see, Lucasfilm a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, then some music starts and they start setting up the movie. There's these crime syndicates. Everybody's obsessed with hyperfuel, which nobody had ever heard of before. And Nick, what did you think about that approach to introducing this movie?
I like it because I know you could have just done the crawl, especially the way they capitalize entire names and stuff. Just like the crawl, or, capitalizing hyperfuel, like those opening crawls always capitalize the important words like Star Killer Base. But I like the way they do it here because one of my favorite parts of this movie, even though John Williams only composed the the main Solo new theme, is I love the music in this movie.
Oh, so I hate it.
Really?
That's one of my big criticisms. Yeah. I don't think it sounds score-wise like a Star Wars film at all.
There's moments where it does to me, but overall I agree with Cam on this.
It's one of my favorite Star Wars scores. But I like that those opening credits fit better under like that almost slow, like it's almost, the music starts slow. It doesn't like go dun da da da, which I don't fit with these particular
absolutely words. Fine with how it starts and everything like that, in terms of the score as well, and it shouldn't have had that Star Wars theme through it. Definitely not. I think they should keep that for the main sagas. Although, will that continue when we get on to the next trilogy? Will they go with an opening crawl? Will it be the same music? I don't know. But certainly I had no problem with the kind of way they did the opening words.
Yeah, I was fine with the crawl replacement. I didn't care for the way it was written. When I was sitting there reading it, both originally and this time, I was kind of like, it sounds like the beginning to a fan fiction, which mean technically it kind of is, but I don't know.
For me, it's the last paragraph. The last paragraph, I meant to write this down and totally forgot. Apologies, listeners. But the last paragraph to me was just pure cheese.
Like a young man looking to the stars or whatever.
Yes. I just hated that last paragraph, but actually I was okay with it up until then, and then that bit comes up, and I was like, no, I don't like that. Yeah.
So the movie gets past that, and the first thing we see is Han escaping.
Hot wiring a car, basically.
He's cool. Hot wiring a land speeder and escaping after a deal gone bad. I thought the opening chase scene was kind of cool, to start off the movie. I was like, hey, this might not be too bad. There's really not a lot that goes on there. He escapes and he gets back to the Lady Proxima, which they set up in that opening text. I don't want to call it a crawl, just the opening text. We'll go with that. And they set her up as kind of like the head of this local gang that, relies on tricking people. Hey, I'll give you shelter and protection if you work for me.
Oliver Twist.
Yeah, basically Oliver Twist. And Han's trying to make it back there, but there's like a curfew. They kind of like allude to there's being a curfew that you should be back in by nighttime. And we quickly meet Han Solo. We quickly meet Kira, played by Emilia Clarke. The Mad Queen herself. That's a Game of Thrones reference for those of you that don't know. We meet her, and their first interaction, I will say, was the first moment I realized this movie's going to have issues. I didn't buy their relationship. I think it's more on her than it is on the gentleman playing Han Solo, but I didn't find much chemistry between them. Cam, what did you think?
I don't have any major issues with it. I wouldn't say there is any specific chemistry, no. But would I say that was her and not him? I kind of would lean the other way, possibly, on that one. I think as much as Alden Ehrenreich doesn't really do anything wrong in the film, he doesn't have that star quality, just charm that, he just, that screen presence that Ford does. And it kind of makes you realise that Ford in the role is a big part of what makes Han Solo a popular character, because even written like that, I just didn't get the same feelings coming from him. So
I'll say this before I get to Nick, and because I wonder what Nick thinks about it. I actually didn't mind him as Han Solo when he was first announced. I was like, okay, yeah, I can buy him physically. I can buy him as Han Solo. I mean, you are partially right with this with the Harrison Ford swagger that kind of comes with it, and the Harrison Ford name that comes with the OT/Force Awakens Han Solo. It's really kind of hard to fit those shoes. Nick, what did you think about Kira and Han's first meeting? And did you find any chemistry issues? Do you think it's him or her?
I'm really bad at judging chemistry in movies because I have no chemistry with people. So I bought it the way I buy like every love story. Like people are always like, oh, Andrew Garfield and what's her face? I'm blanking on it. Yeah, have great chemistry compared to this like superhero couple, and it's like it's all fine to me. I don't see the difference. I'm not an expert at that area of judging film subtlety. What did you think chemistry.
Okay, what did you think of Alden? I don't want to try to say.
Oh yeah.
Say it right. What did you think of him?
I thought I'd hate him even when I was excited for the movie and seeing the trailer. Like the first Super Bowl trailer, he just says like one word or something.
Yeah,
like that means yes. I think that's all he says in the first movie. Trailer. But I kind of like he grows. I didn't like him very much the first time I saw the movie, but I've seen it like 10 or 15 times now.
Jeez,
he really grows on me. Like no one's gonna have Ford's presence because Ford is like the greatest blockbuster star of all time, I would argue. But I don't know, he does a pretty, without imitating him exactly, he kind of has the mannerisms down.
I'll tell you what the difference is for me. It's the cynicism. I think Ford plays Solo very cynical, almost dry.
Is that a good word?
Yeah, dry. A sarcastic wit. And world weary as well. There's that the lived in presence, and I know this is supposed to be young Solo, so he's not going to have that. They want to show how he becomes world weary, etc. But I think his humour, and that maybe is the writing rather than I don't know, but the humour didn't quite, it was just a little bit too on the nose for me, instead of that kind of just pure sarcasm and I don't really care what's going on here, and that's how Ford kind of played Solo to begin with in A New Hope. It was this roll the eyes, oh jeez, these kids, what am I having to put up with here? This is supposed to be a quick, easy chat, and they're just doing my head in. I kind of get that feeling from them all the way through it, and that wasn't there for me with Ehrenreich.
Okay. Yeah, I consider this really a Casino Royale, where like Bond ain't Bond until the end. Like, he's like, oh, I can fall in love, and he's not a happy-go-lucky guy, but Bond's not the same Bond he is by the end of it, which I feel like a sequel would have explored more of.
Which would be okay.
Oh, I just got betrayed by a girl.
If they didn't put him in a hopeful kind of position and talk about how his character really was a good guy and everything. They kind of built him up. They gave him that at the end where he made the good choice and he did the right thing. I don't know if that was the way to do it, to be honest. Because that comes really after the whole Death Star thing. After he gets to know Luke and Leia. I kind of wanted him to be a bit more hard edged and remain that. As if his trust's been broken at the end, and I know we're jumping very far ahead here, but what happens at the end that breaks his trust, and he kind of goes away with this hopeful twinkle in his eye. I don't know. I think they should have went a little bit darker.
I will say this, and one of my biggest issues with it, like I said, is the Han Solo character. There is a big redemption story in the first 6 movies, and that's Darth Vader's redemption. Okay, from the prequels to the OT, it became about Darth Vader's redemption, Anakin's redemption. When you first meet Han Solo in A New Hope, you get the idea that he's a bad guy, always been a bad guy. He's all about himself. He's a mercenary. He's a gun for hire. He's a pirate. Exactly. Pirate. He knows nothing, or at least doesn't seem to know nothing or give 2 shits about the rebellion. He's very, very, like you said, dry and weathered when he meets Greedo and shoots first. This movie, and like Cam said, it's not until he sees 2 17-year-old kids take on a Death Star that, with Luke and Leia, I know she's, on the ground and Luke is actually in the cockpit of an X-Wing, but he sees these 2 kids believing in something grander, willing to sacrifice something. And it's his experiences rescuing Leia, working with Luke, seeing what Luke goes through, seeing what the rebellion is actually all about, seeing what I honestly think seeing the destruction of Alderaan probably even played a factor into, that was probably the beginning. When they jump into the Alderaan system, he's like, oh, wait, the Empire can do some seriously fucked up shit. And I think it takes away a lot from the character to have, even looking back at where he first starts out in this movie, he's a good guy trying to do the right thing the wrong way. And I think that takes away from where we meet him in the original trilogy.
Don't you think maybe he sees himself in Luke and Leia, his old self?
Nope.
Where he's like, I tried to be a good guy once.
I mean, that's one way you could headcanon it if you wanted to, but ultimately it didn't feel a satisfying explanation to me overall in terms of one movie moving into the other. If there had been the guarantee of other movies where we actually see him kind of go the other way, so his arc's like a wave that goes down a certain way, back up again kind of thing, then possibly I could have bought that. But of course we'll never know what a sequel would have done, but I kind of get the feeling that they would have kept playing him as the hero, that's the way they were going with it. And I think I wanted him to be an anti-hero more. I wanted him to be Clint Eastwood at The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. He's the good guy in it, but he's not really that good. I think that would have worked better for me.
We're still at talking about Han and Kira. We went off because that's an important part of understanding this movie, and the rest of that we're going on is understanding where Han is at and where each one of us kind of considered where he should have been at in this movie. One thing I do wonder, you mentioned earlier, Cam, the production issues this movie had. We changed directors. We reshoot a lot. This is the most expensive Star Wars movie ever.
Wasn't
made.
It rumored to be something like 80% of it that got reshot or something?
Or higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Huge.
So I often wonder, watching this movie this time, is how much of these issues are because these characters had an idea of who and what they were, and then they had to go back and reshoot it. Because even if you're not a method actor, you still have to get into your character's head. You still have to understand your character and where the writers have placed your character. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I wonder how many issues we have with the individual characters in this movie is because of rewrites and reshoots and them maybe not having the comfortability or the comfort, the familiarity with this version of their character versus the original.
We only have rumours, but the rumours were saying that the actors weren't happy because Lord and Miller were going way off the script and they were going too light-hearted at times. And actually the kind of light-heartedness of it is one of my issues. So I'm just guessing that I probably wouldn't have liked their version any better, and it might have even been more controversial, but of course we'll never know because rumours are rumours. Nobody's ever come out and said anything official about it really as to exactly what happened. So
release the Lord and Miller cut.
It wouldn't be very long.
Hey, Lord and Millard really
Probably
don't
filmed
give two
more than
shits
Zack
anymore.
Snyder.
They're Oscar award-winning people now.
They got Spider-Verse and Lego
They got
Movie and
Spider-Verse.
21 Jump Street if they want to come back to it. They're golden. They didn't need Star Wars.
They're set. Nope. So let's go ahead and continue on. We meet Lady Proxima, and we learn that Han and Kira are trying to get out of her like grasp and get off Corellia. I was happy to see Corellia. I was hoping they kept him Corellian. That's an important part to the Han Solo character. I wasn't quite happy with the way they make Corellia seem to be in the novels. Of course, Corellians are very, your Han Solo, your Wedge Antilles, amongst others, are very proud of their home. Karan Horn, they're very proud of their home. They're almost, as patriotic for Corellia, even though it's got issues, and they admit that it's got issues, as, say, the average, American military member is, very, very proud of their home. And in this one, everybody's like, oh, Corellia sucks. Why do you want to go back to Corellia? Nobody wants to go back to Corellia. I was kind of upset at that. I would have liked to have seen that like love for their home. But
they've got to have a reason for them to want to get out, though. That's the thing. If he loved it that much, why does he never go there ever in the movies? And then, of course, there's no reason for him to go there in the movies, but I think he doesn't mention it at all anywhere in the movies either. I mean, considering they did throw away all the EU, there was actually nothing to stop them having Han grow up on a completely different planet at this point. So they kind of did one for the fans, but at least saying, it is Corellia, and trying to, they talked about shipbuilding and they connected it to the Falcon. So they did enough for me to kind of make that passable.
I would have liked to have seen. That's a personal thing. I'm not really holding that against the movie. What I did like was the name drop of Carida, however you want to pronounce it, the Imperial Academy, which is another EU name drop. And I will say this:
there were quite a few EU drops. Yeah.
Yes, there are quite a few EU references in this movie that I did appreciate. But we get to another speeder chase. Han and Kira escape, and they're being chased. I can't remember the character's name, but he's like the main enforcer for Lady Proxima. And they're trying to, get away from them, get to the starport to get off planet. And there's a lot of practical effects. Nick, what did you think about, you mentioned the look of this movie, that you really enjoyed it. How much did you enjoy this first, 10, 15 minutes with the effects and stuff like that?
Oh, I love all the practical effects, obviously. Like, the dogs obviously aren't, but like people like the protocol droid or whatever, the guard droid, especially, like, he gets run over and then his head just says protocol because that's the end of his sentence. And the speeders, obviously there's lots of CGI in the scene, but throughout the movie I really appreciated that. Part of what gives it a New Hope feel is, honestly, when you watch The Last Jedi, like 2 hour long making of, you're amazed at how much shit they did for real when they didn't have to.
Surprise, I've never watched it.
Yeah, and you can't even, like, some of the stuff they did for real, it's like, oh, well, that they didn't need to do because it already looks CGI. But in this, it feels more like an old Star Wars movie to me, like even more of a lived-in galaxy than the other Disney movies. So I dig it. I dig the chase scene. I dig, like, all the stormtroopers and the new stormtrooper, just all the aliens we get to see and stuff. Even Lady Proxima, I always want to call her Proxima Midnight from Infinity War, has a real look to her, even though she's obviously CGI. She does look like an old school puppet.
Yeah, that I will give them that. As far as the effects, especially the practical effects, Cam, you pretty happy with those?
Yeah, I thought it was a decent enough, chase to begin with, and it did look certainly a far cry from, for example, the car chase through Coruscant and Attack of the Clones, which actually works for me, as I've said before, as a storyboard, but it just looks not right. So this isn't as an exciting as car chase overall in terms of how it's planned out, but it works because it feels more ground level. It feels, as Nick said, like a lived in dirty world, and actually the design is actually one of the things this movie does have going for it, and I think that's maybe a lot of credit to potentially Ron Howard as well for how he set a lot of that sort of stuff up, because I think it does look good.
Definitely. I agree. So they get to the spaceport. They're trying to hide from...
Just
what's that?
His first Millennium Falcon type trick, where he tries to go through the skinny space. Yeah, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, like
well,
that.
it gets him almost all the way to the end.
Yeah, almost. And then that kind of has a funny... I don't know. That has a funny feel to me. But even like they're stuck, and then it like just falls a little bit more.
Yeah, and you know, up until this point in the movie, when I originally saw it, I was like, okay, I'm okay with this.
So was that.
Originally, I'm a lot like Cam. It was like I just don't really care enough to go see this on opening weekend. I will see it. I didn't have the faith in it, and I didn't really care about, you know, seeing this. It wasn't like Rogue One where I was like, I'm fucking there opening weekend, you know. But yeah,
Memorial Day was opening weekend.
What was that?
Didn't you say you went on Memorial Day? I thought that was opening weekend, like the 25th or something.
I thought it was a week or two after, because I know we were waiting on our friends to get there. It might have been...
It's May 25th. I have the Lando poster behind me.
Okay, it may have been that following week. We saw it during the weekday. So it was like maybe 3 or 4 days after opening weekend, because we saw it during a weekday. Because they came for the week of. And so either way, I didn't go see it by ourselves, and it wasn't like an opening. Yeah, it wasn't the first couple of days. Yeah. So they get to the spaceport, and we see them go up to an Imperial officer and try to bribe their way with some coaxium, which is the MacGuffin of this movie. It's hyperfuel. I really did not care for fuel to once again be an issue in a Star Wars movie.
Well, I mean, I think they dealt with it in a better way in this film than they did in The Last Jedi, you know, to make it, you know, almost like they were running on an empty tank of petrol. Because although they've never discussed it before, really, they had in the EU, but in the films they'd never discussed actual fuel. But I mean, you have to imagine that there's some sort of fuel source. This just doesn't. They don't have unlimited energy from nowhere.
They mention it. Yeah, they mention it in the X-Wing novels, the Rogue Squadron novels from Aaron Alston and Mike Stackpole, which is like most people's favorite series of books in the EU. And fuel does exist. They talk about, you know, we've got enough fuel to get from this point to this point, adding extra fuel pods. But those are like fighter jets. You know, they don't really discuss fuel in capital ships or frigates or anything like that. What you would have to think with stuff like ion engines and stuff that run off electricity, that fuel is going to definitely be a little bit different in a bigger craft than it is a smaller craft, I guess. I don't know. I really didn't care. There's a part when we get to the Kessel part of this movie. I'll talk a little bit more about the fuel, but they go to bribe this lady. Han gets through. Kira doesn't. She gets captured by Proxima's enforcers. Han leaves the dice, the so-called famous dice that were in like one shot from the original trilogy, but made this big deal in The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Solo.
Yeah, I think more it was The Last Jedi, wasn't it? And then this came afterwards, which is probably where they got that from. They would have known what Johnson was doing in his film, etc., etc. So I blame Johnson for that one more than Howard.
Cam is so quick to... I think that might be more fun than me and Nick on Solo. Will be you and Jammer on episode 8.
Empire's going to be good as well, because
Empire will.
I just refuse to accept
have to tag team on that one.
I'm jealous. I can't be on that
one. So Han gets through, and he's trying to hide, you know, from stormtroopers and the Proxima enforcers, and he sees a propaganda video for the Imperial Armed Forces, and they are straight up playing Imperial March as if that's the national anthem of the Empire.
Do you hate that? I love it.
I didn't hate it, but I did not care for it. Cam, what do you think? Would Imperial March actually be the Imperial national anthem?
It's I don't know. I actually thought about this last night, and I don't know. It's either genius or it's it is one of those things that's going to polarize definitely, and I haven't quite decided. Having only watched it twice, I haven't quite decided.
It was very meta.
It's totally.
It's a little bit
Lord
too meta
Miller.
for Star Wars. That's my worry.
Exactly. I felt it was kind of goofy.
I love it, and that feels like a Lord and Miller moment because they make stuff meta. All I do is do meta, or modern meta, or whatever. They have a different name for it now, but yeah, that felt like something they left, and I very much enjoy. Like, join your empire now and bring peace to the galaxy.
I was fine with the propaganda. I just didn't care for the fucking music.
Propaganda.
Well, the music kind of had like
exactly what the Empire would do. It's perfect.
Yeah, definitely. So Han goes up to a recruiter to join, and we get the first moment in this movie. There's 3 moments where I wanted to get up and walk away. And
I agree.
To our first one.
This moment sucks.
Han, what's your name? Han. Okay, what's your last name?
What's your people? I think it is. Who are your people?
What's your people? I don't have any people. And then later on in the fucking movie, he discusses knowing who his fucking father is.
Yeah. Well, he's dead, though. He doesn't have any people. Oh, I guess he could use his father's last name.
Exactly.
Most people have a last name. If he knew his father, surely he would know what his last name was.
Yes.
I'm totally agree with Kyle on this. There's no need for it. There's no need for it.
That was
it doesn't
the most,
have to. All he has to say is Solo. Boom.
I looked
and
at
you're into Solo.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? That's all you need. You don't. He doesn't need
I hate
to.
Nothing else. I'm Han Solo. I looked at my wife in the theater, and I literally like scowl. I mean, I was furious, and she just squeezed my hand, and she's like, "I'm so sorry."
Two things about it. That's pretty funny though. They shouldn't have called the movie Solo if it's a name given to him by the Empire.
Yep.
They should have called like Han Solo or Han and Chewie or something. Han and Chewbacca actually be a pretty sweet title. But also, I used to talk about at work, movie theater. Lots of people talking about movies, and someone's like, "Well, then they should have moved the title card after that." It doesn't even have the name Solo when they show the title card.
Yeah. I did. I hated that.
But I hate the moment
that
too.
Moment.
That might be the worst moment.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's what they should have done when it come up Solo. He should have said Han Solo, and it should have just went, Solo.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been great.
Solo, Han Solo.
But
so we get after that. We go ahead.
No.
Something else. Okay. So after that, we get to one of the coolest scenes in the movie. We get to the battle zone, to this war that's going on a planet, and it's very dark. It's very smoky, very muddy. Eventually, and it's a pretty cool scene.
It's the most real war seen in Star Wars.
Rogue One had great.
Yeah, but like that was still Star Warsy. I always picture with the scene seeing the AT-ST deployed, and it just kind of lands on its legs and then picks itself back up, and it's very like brutal, and you can't see. It's very Saving Private Ryan of
and I also like
Star Wars.
The kind of the way they depicted the whole kind of futileness of it all, and just that. We've got to go from here to here because
Over
we're
that
told,
ridge.
because we're... Yeah, it was very, like, almost Vietnam, wasn't it? Well, we've got to take that hill and that's it, And then they talk about, but why? We're the hostiles in this planet, etc., etc. And that... Yeah, that worked for me. That whole
say,
part
to bring peace and prosperity to the galaxy. That's his answer.
We're
when he's
bringing
like,
a lot of peace here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that whole part in the what world was it? I don't know. I can't remember the name of the world.
I don't know if they even mention the
it.
world. I don't think they do.
But it was that was
matter.
okay for me. I liked that. Yeah.
I mean, it was fun. It was a way to show. I wouldn't have. As a matter of fact, what I really would have. You know what? I'll save that for when we get to fixing the movie. So, this war scene's pretty cool. All three of us agree on that, which is great. But this is the one of those moments where I have a complaint, and it's a complaint I've had for every movie that Disney has done, including Rogue One, which I absolutely love. All of the new ships and characters and troopers and stuff to sell toys. Once again, when you think of the original trilogy, the entire Imperial Army is stormtroopers.
There's
no
movie
like
added a new one.
regular troop.
Empire added snow troopers, and then you got
yes, but they're still
stormtroopers.
stormtroopers. It's not some dude with an open helmet. You know what I'm saying?
That would just
like,
didn't make Han Solo a stormtrooper. That would have been a step too far, especially after doing Finn, I think.
But wasn't he an officer
I
training
liked that
school
better
though?
than
So
creating something
they could
new.
have made him a junior officer.
He
or
originally
something
went to
like
the
that.
Imperial Academy. Yes.
There's
He
a
was gonna
deleted
be
scene where
an
he is a
officer.
flyboy, but I like this version better.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
he
I've seen
crashed the
deleted
TIE fighter
scene.
in the deleted scene or something.
I don't think they needed to go that way with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a complaint that I've had. And look, I get it from a business standpoint. I totally get it. You know, one of the key points of a Star Wars film is to sell toys. But it's still annoying. It's a shameless money scheme. But anyways, we get to the next moment. Let me correct myself. During this war scene, we meet Woody Harrelson's character, Beckett, Tobias Beckett, who I actually like Beckett.
Yeah.
I do. I think Harrelson does a good job as
Harrelson's
Beckett.
always good though, isn't he? You know,
What's that?
He's always good. As long as the
Harrelson,
movies
yeah,
get the
he's
right
pretty
tone
decent.
to have Woody Harrelson in it, because he won't change his tone for very many things. But
No.
if your movie fits a Woody Harrelson, he will do well in the movie. You know. Actually, I
He's
say that, and
100%.
then you look at something like True Detective, which he was absolutely phenomenal in, which was totally off that kind of tone. But you know what I mean. They cast him well,
Yeah.
for that character.
He was Tallahassee all over again in a Star Wars universe. From Zombieland, Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really is. That is the closest role.
Yeah, I mean but it's good. I liked it. So we meet him. He's pretending to be a captain. Han has an interaction with him, where he's trying to once Han realizes that he's not an Imperial officer, that he's there to steal a ship and go do a job, that he's a pirate or smuggler of some sort. Han tries to blackmail him, threatens to tell a lieutenant about it. Beckett turns the tables, has Han locked up, and we meet a very muddy and dirty Chewbacca and reach the second time in this movie I almost walked out. So Han's locked up to Chewie, and they call him the Beast, and they're going to feed him to Chewie. When all of a sudden, Han realizes that it's a Wookiee and starts speaking Wookiee. And I'm sorry, I fucking hated that shit. Cam, what'd you think of that scene?
No, I don't like the fact that Chewie's just so violent as well to begin with, because just flinging a prisoner in with him doesn't seem to work for that character for me. I think I would have rather they threw him in with the Beast and Han just started talking normally to him and they come up with a plan, using English, because obviously Chewbacca can fully understand. And
yes.
And he could have been surprised that Han understood what he was saying as well. Yep. That's how they could have did that. He could have, you know what I mean? And by the way, if they'd have wanted somebody to do that, I could have did that a lot better than Old Nenny.
If you need some future Wookiees, Disney and Lucasfilm, please hire Cam Clark.
Any voices at all, I'm here. I'm hireable. But they could have had that kind of thing where you know that I love the way that they do Chewbacca, especially in the original trilogy, where although you don't know what he's saying, you always know what he's saying. Do you know what I mean? It's done well. They do the same way
Definitely.
R2. It's just a few bleeps, but there's actually a little bit of tone. There's a little bit of emotion in there. In both R2 and Chewie.
Same with R2D2.
R2. Yeah, that I think they've lost a little bit outside of that original trilogy. It just it's not quite as magical, that the way they just form all that together doesn't quite work as well for me. And it's they could have done that a lot better, I agree. So him suddenly speaking Wookiee, and then oh wait a minute, it was like the Martha scene at BVS. Why did you say that name?
Nick, go ahead and try to defend the indefensible.
Okay, I know the scenes you said you didn't want to see the most are two scenes I absolutely expected in this film. And
I expected them too, but I didn't want them.
I wanted to see it because you get bits and pieces even without the EU about the Wookiee life debt, and I think it is the EU, not any of the movies where they say that he rescued him from Imperial slavery or prison or whatever. So I
Yes.
kind of like this take. I mean, they make a comment about they haven't fed the beast in 3 days.
Mhm.
I also like the idea of Chewbacca having a darker past, just like Han will later. But I mean, also like, yeah, if you're kept in a prison and they feed you every 3 days, you're gonna eat what they throw down. And I think it's hilarious when he talks.
Well, even if
to-
it's people, you know. So
yeah, I think so. That's all he's
so
getting.
what you're saying, Nick, is that if we put you in prison for 3 days, and we don't feed you for 3 days, and I fling Kyle into the cell with you, you will eat Kyle. That's basically
Well,
what
first
you
off,
said.
I'll kill Nick, but
If I was a
I
Wookiee
mean, let's just pretend Nick had
I
superhuman
know.
strength. You know, he was like Captain America, and you were fucked.
rip
You
off
know,
your arms.
still, would you eat Kyle?
I don't know.
Or
I've been
you-
down there longer than 3 days. I just haven't been fed in 3 days.
or would you work with me to escape?
If I heard you speaking my language, I'd be like, "Oh, this guy tried to get educated about me," and then we'd
Hey,
switch
yo,
to
brother,
English,
you
just
speak
like in the
my
movie.
language.
You understand
motherfucker.
basic. You understand basic.
No, but
Why
that's
do you
why I
gotta-
like that moment because then they never speak Wookiee again. Like it's not like they even finish the conversation in Wookiee. They have like 2 or 3 words back and forth,
So-
and then Han's like, "All right, now you punch this thing, and let's get the fuck out of here."
But there was no need
I don't
for
think they
that
really
because
thought
he
about
could have
doing
just
it. I think
said,
they did that because they
you
didn't
know-
want him to sound ridiculous the whole movie.
All
Well,
they
if he
had
just
to
says
have
like,
him-
"I speak Wookiee," then I don't know. I'm sure there's lots of people.
all they had
who
to do is have
understand
him answer something, like when Chewie said, "Rawr," he's growling at something, Han just answers him, you know, and Chewie's like, "Oh, that didn't just sound like a growl to this guy. This guy actually understands what I'm saying," you know, because he would be using words. He's not just growling and snarling at you. That's his language, you know. So he's shouting at you. I mean that. Nah, does honestly, Nick, it doesn't work.
No, not at all. And it's the second time. My wife even was like, that's one of her least favorite moments in the movie is Han speaking Wookiee. I agree with Cam 100%. Thank you, Cam.
Although-
Me and
Nah,
you
man.
I am
I laughed
okay
like it
with
was a
that
New
bit
Hope.
being in the movie. I know the 2 bits that you don't think should have been. I don't really feel that way. I felt like that before it, but I actually thought if they had just staged that a little bit better, I would have been on board with how he met Chewie actually. But I didn't enjoy the execution of it.
I can respect that. I can respect. So Chewie and Han decide to escape. They hit a support structure, which if I'm those stormtroopers, I'm not going to stand on the very plate that they are
But
hitting.
we've
I can feel it
established in every other
vibrating.
film that stormtroopers are complete idiots.
I got it. They're not that smart, but that's really really dumb. I don't know, but they do escape and they run off to Beckett, who Han knows is trying to escape with I think they call it an ATST carrier or an ST carrier or something like that. It's a utility vehicle that can lift stuff. It's like a crane, like a sky hook or a sky crane, like a Chinook helicopter. But Star Wars version. And so they run off to that. Beckett's already leaving. They see Han and Chewie, and it's the pilot. I can't remember the pilot's name. Nick, do you remember it? The 4-armed pilot?
I remember he's named Dorian. I don't remember his
Yeah.
name. I remember
Something like
when
that.
Han
But yeah.
catches him, he's like, "I saw you
Yeah,
hiking
he's-
up your shorts."
Yep, he's the one that convinces Beckett.
Who does
"Hey,
the
we can
voice
use
for him?
John Favreau.
That's what I was going to say. See, there was
Really?
a point
Yeah, it's Jon Favreau.
when he said something. I think it's when he said nuts at one point, and it's just his facial expressions, obviously from the mocap and everything like that. I was just like,
Yeah.
that's Jon Favreau, and I'd never realised that before. But yeah,
Rio Durant.
Rio Durant.
Yep,
there
that's
you
his
go.
name. Rio.
Very
so,
fragile species.
What's that?
Very fragile species.
Yeah, you get shot in the shoulder and you fucking die.
One of
right?
his
So-
shoulders.
Yeah, well, maybe it
one
was
of
a
4
deeper
shoulders
wound than he
kills you.
said.
Yeah, I
He's
forgot
like,
to
"I'm
tell you,
fine," and
my
then he's passing
species
out.
has its liver in its shoulder. Ugh. tell Tony to my work
We
behind
don't
for
know.
Christmas.
I liked Rio. I actually did like that character.
Yeah, so did I.
While he's in the movie, he's one of the higher points for me. He convinces Woody Harrelson's Beckett that, hey, not only is that Han Solo character, pretty fucking sly and creative, but Chewie himself, the Wookiee, would be beneficial for the heist that they're trying to pull off, which is this heist of coaxium, the hyperfuel, on a
It's
kind of like a
interesting because
maglev train.
when they actually do it,
it's a
you're
train
actually
robbery.
thinking to yourself, there is no way they could have pulled that off without having at least Chewie there. There's no way Beckett's
Definitely.
doing all that uncoupling on his own and putting on all those hooks.
Yep.
It's just not happening. So, but anyway,
Definitely. So they decide to pick up Han and Chewie, and there's a funny scene. I actually did chuckle. It's one of the few times in the movie I did chuckle. Han
shower.
is
Yeah.
showering, and Chewie just walks in all up close and on him, and he's like, "Couldn't we have done this separately?" I did think that was
I like
funny.
that. I
Beginning of
thought
their
that worked.
friendship.
Yeah.
As a person that has done time in the United States military, I've had to shower in a room full of other people, and you're definitely there's a time where there's the opportunity to have some modesty, some humility, and shower separately, and it's kind of like when you're I don't know I know in Europe, when I was in Europe, Cam, most urinals and stalls have dividers or are fully enclosed, but here in America you'll actually have a line of
No, I would say in
this
the
was
UK,
Germany.
it's
Okay,
it's more
UK
like,
it's a little different.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was in Germany, twice in my life, there were more dividers. In America, you could have like, especially at like sports arenas or big
No
public
dividers.
buildings, you'll have no dividers, and it'll be like 20 urinals. So
Yeah, it's the same
generally,
here.
males are like, we try to have at least one in between, but every
Yeah,
now
it's like
and then there will
if
be
you're
like,
standing in the middle and someone walks
Yeah.
up and stands right in the one next to you,
Right
and it's an
next
empty
to
bathroom, you're like, bro, do you know what I mean?
It's like,
you don't do that,
you
man. That's-
you
that's
could have
uncalled
given
for.
us some space. And it's not a homophobia type thing,
No,
or
it's
it's
just-
just
it's a
a
personal
modesty
space,
type thing. It's like, yeah, you could have some personal space.
There's 20 of these.
It's
Go to the
different
other
if it's
end.
a- if
Yes!
It's different if you're in a 1,000-seater stadium and you're waiting for a
Yes!
slot to open up. You don't care, you know, because
exactly,
must.
exactly.
But
When I've had to shower or be naked in front of other people, I got it tracking. It's
Yeah, I
it's
mean, I
something
play
I've had to do
sports
because of
and
the career choice
no
I made.
problem,
but you know, in high school, gym class and stuff like that. But when I don't have to do it, I want some humility. I want some modesty, you know? So that made it a very funny scene. I really did enjoy that scene. Yeah. Then we get to a campfire scene. You know, Beckett fills him in on this heist that they're going to pull off, and we get to a campfire scene. And the campfire scene is nice character building.
Mhm.
I do. I actually like the campfire scene. Cam, I just heard you make a noise. What'd you think
yeah,
of it?
no, I liked it. Yeah, you know, actually, my problems with the movie all come later on. So, you know, at this point, I'm enjoying it. To be honest, you know, where they're going with it for sure.
Overall, except for a couple scenes. Nick, what'd you think of the campfire scene?
execution.
I like the campfire scene. It establishes. I mean, you see Beckett and Thandie Newman's character. I don't know her name. You know, just like kind of showing the importance. Of having
This is the
someone else
only
with them.
time where
Val.
we've done one of these podcasts
Yeah.
where somebody's like, "What's the name?" and I haven't been able to just go boom and say it straight away. That just
Yeah,
shows
I
you
thought
how
you'd
off-
both be able to grab it.
I've got
yeah,
the
or if I
IMDb
miss
up
one,
right
Kyle
now.
gets it. You know, but we
Yeah.
it just shows you we just don't know that much about this film. So.
Well, I always come out of Star Wars, especially sci-fi films, that way, where I'm like, "What was that character's name?"
Oh,
But,
what happened there, man?
But I like all that scene except for the blaster, which is like classic over-explaining how every little detail came together.
yeah.
Like
That's
Indy's hat
over-exposition.
and Scar. It works in Last Crusade because that's a great movie, but usually you don't want to see how. That's how Han Solo got his, or Harrison Ford got his Scar. That's how he got his hat. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't need to see that kind of prequel stuff ever.
No.
yeah,
Agree with you.
definitely. I did find the Wyatt Earp, you know, young guns, gunslinging that Beckett does, even on the during the war scene. You know, he's sitting there shooting whatever the opposition is on that planet. He's sitting there shooting those guys, and he's flipping the guns, and that makes no sense. You're not going to want to flip your guns just for show while in the middle of a war. Maybe in
You
a
know,
shootout,
when you
but not
finish
a
to
war.
put it back, like, you know, the man with no name does or
Yeah,
something like that,
maybe.
yeah, that's fine. But, you know, when there's a threat there, it's, you know, that, yeah, I get what you mean.
It's kind of like
Well, he got
Obi-Wan
cocky,
Kenobi.
kid.
Yeah, it's it's kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker spinning around
As
10 times.
which we
in a
talked
fucking-
about, just doing
Yes, we
moves
did.
that have no effect on the other person but look
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, check
that's
out
one
the
of the
past
things-
episodes of Last Call podcast.
That's one of the things I like about this movie, especially with the campfire and the scene that follows. It's very much a Western.
Yeah,
Even compared to other Star Wars, which do have Western elements.
they do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the next... okay, good. You good, Cam?
Yeah, I'm just agreeing. Yeah.
I got it. So the next scene we get to is the train heist.
A great train robbery.
Yeah, it was. I like the train heist. You know, they're going to get this coaxium hyperfuel off this train. Val does mention that there's another person out there while they're scouting the tracks and stuff. You know, there's this other person, Enfys Nest, that might know about it and that might come to steal the coaxium from underneath them. It's a very exciting scene, even though they show a lot of it. The new stormtroopers, which I'm okay with.
Those ones are cool.
Yeah, I'm okay with, even though they should have used the same snowtroopers from Empire. At least they were stormtroopers, unlike the Imperial infantry that they just created out of fucking nowhere earlier. So you get this really cool heist, and I'm a big fan of heists. I like both the original Italian Job and I like the one with Edward Norton because I like Edward Norton. I think he's a good actor. You don't like that one?
No,
Cam?
the original was an absolute classic, but
it's better. It's better, hands down.
A million times better. It's so much better. It's unbelievable.
I'm an Ed Norton fan. So
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
So I'm a big fan of like crime movies. I like heist films and stuff like that. I love stuff like that. Heat is a fucking amazing film. But anyways,
Time Heist.
Time Heist.
Movie.
If you haven't seen Endgame, go help it beat Avatar by going and seeing it at least 10 more times.
They should have called it Avengers Time Heist.
Yeah, but that would have been a bit spoilerish, wouldn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So we've got this train heist, and it definitely goes awry. And by this time in the movie, there's been a couple moments that I didn't like. I'm starting to feel like it's dragging on this time that I'm watching it. Definitely the first time I watched it. This time's very similar, but it's still a very exciting scene. I don't really have any complaints about the train heist. Even when it fails, you know, they get the cart off. Enfys Nest and her crew have hooked onto the same car. Han's, because the pilot, Rio, has been killed by shooting him in the shoulder. Han is now flying the ship that they stole from the planet that the battle was going on. Enfys Nest and her crew are also connected to it. They're flying right into this mountain, and Han's like, I'm going to save Chewie and Beckett, and disconnects from it. Do you guys have any complaints whatsoever about the train heist?
No, because especially in that moment, it's the first time he's dropped a shipment, which gets him into trouble later with Jabba the Hutt, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's fine. You know, it explains where the rest of the movie's going to go.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So like Nick said, he drops the shipment. They drop the coaxium and it blows up. It's something that they've established, that coaxium that's unrefined is very volatile, and even refined it can blow up.
Don't be dropping it on a mountain.
Nitroglycerin. Yeah, don't drop it on a mountain. So this is where we first realized that Beckett was not stealing the fuel to sell himself. He was hired by somebody to steal it. They talk about Red Dawn, something like that.
Crimson
what is
Dawn.
it called? Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
Which, I will say this as an EU fan, bullshit, they should have used Black Sun.
Yeah, but, you know, if you ever want to bring Black Sun in any point in the future with the whole kind of Caesar and everything like that, or Sizor, or whatever his name is, then you can't
Shizor.
You can't have Darth Maul at the top. So it's kind of what it's really doing is bringing in a rival, and I'm okay with that. You know,
It's just one of the crime syndicates.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the crime syndicates, but how much cooler would it have been to see Prince Shizor, however you want to pronounce it, from Shadows of the Empire, instead of Darth Maul? I would have loved that a million times
cooler.
better.
You're correct.
A million
so if
times
they had
cooler.
went with
that's what I'm saying.
If they had went with Black Sun and they had brought in him at the end, that would have worked a lot better for me than Maul. Yeah.
I would have almost forgiven a bunch of the movie for that, because then I would have been double excited.
Well, I would have been more excited for a sequel, to get into really
it would
get
never
into the
happen,
underworld.
and you've wasted the character.
Well, no, you see, I think if you had Prince Shizor and you mentioned Black Sun, maybe there would have been a little bit more positive spin. That's wishful thinking. Nick, what'd you think about Crimson Dawn or whatever? Would you have preferred Black Sun?
I know so little about Shadows of the Empire, but that's something I hope they use later.
Okay.
Because it is so good.
He's actually a good character. He's one of the best sort of EU characters. He's a very morally grey, again, rather than sort of moustache twirly, a guy that's sort of worked himself up and very much dealing in that playing games. You know, he plays a lot of very risky games, you know, and his main rival in the Shadows of the Empire is Vader, which is a pretty risky opponent to take on.
Yes.
And, you know, he does do that, though. He's got the guts to go against Vader, so, you know, he's a good character, and I think that would have worked better for me, but yeah, that's one of my issues with the film is Mr. Maul anyway, but we'll get to that.
We'll get there in a little bit. I do have one note. I do want to point this out. When Han's flying the utility craft, Rio calls him one hell of a pilot, and all Han has been doing is flying straight.
I was going to say that, and I thought I could have missed more opportunity to say that, but you're literally just holding the stick straight, and I'm thinking to myself,
straight.
You know, that's probably as good as Indiana Jones does in Temple of Doom, you know what I mean? Fuel, you know what I mean? It's,
I did. I hated that. When I was watching it yesterday, he's like, you know what, Han, you're right, you're one hell of a pilot. I'm like, he's fucking flying straight. I can fly an aircraft straight.
He's keeping it hovering right where it needs to be while being shot at.
I can do that too.
Yeah. You've never flied one of these carrier trooper Star Wars things.
That's why we still. That's why you
I played X-wing. I played TIE Fighter. I played X-wing versus TIE Fighter, and I played X-wing.
Those aren't even flight simulators. Those are video games. Not even a proper flight simulator.
I can do anything that I put my mind to, right, Mr. Dog?
But I did. I was like, if he was like maneuvering a lot, it would have been a better line. I felt like I didn't feel like the line was actually needed at that point.
Yeah,
you know what I would have loved to see? Just a little Indiana Jones callback where people come up on either side of him, and he kind of does that look to the left, look to the right, then goes into the middle and goes, you know what I mean? I think that would have been a nice little shot there. Just like for the real fans to go, I remember that rings a bell. But I don't know, maybe that would have been too much fan service. That's why I don't make these films, I guess.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm watching this movie. I'm trying really, really, really hard to pay a lot of attention to it last night. And it seems like Crimson Dawn's leader, whose name
Dryden Voss.
There you go. Dryden Voss. There you go. Played by the actually very charismatic Paul Bettany, who plays Vision in the MCU.
Who replaced the
and
other
Jarvis
guy with reshoots.
in the Iron Man.
Sorry, Nick?
movies.
He replaced the other actor who played him in the original cut.
That's right. Yeah,
yes.
And he was a
an
cat
alien?
type creature in the original cut. Yeah, just like his soldiers.
Mm.
They just simplified the makeup when they're like, we gotta reshoot it and we gotta do it.
Do you know? I think that worked better. I mean,
Yeah,
no
I like
offense to the actor that played it, because I don't know what happened, and I know the only reason they didn't bring him back was because they did the reshoots. He was then committed to doing another film, and he was contracted. There was nothing he could do, so that's why they had to go to Bettany. But Bettany really works in that role for me. So
yeah, he's fine, and I actually like the way he plays the character. He's goofy in a way that you expect somebody that's so powerful that he doesn't have a lot of fear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But then he does have like the scary scenes where he's like, and if this doesn't work, we'll all be out of options.
Exactly. I actually like that.
I love it.
He's one of my he's one of the characters I really liked in this film. But he's on the fucking planet that they did the heist on?
Yeah, on his yacht. That's what he
Yeah. Well, no, it's a fucking building. It's a building.
Well, they call it a yacht. It floats, first of all.
Does it actually?
Yeah,
float?
you see it flying when it shows up.
It looks like a fucking building, and I'm like, if you're on,
it's like a
building
yacht
that floats
at the seat of your crime,
basically. But it didn't make sense to me why he would be on that planet, I have to admit.
Exactly.
Well, he could have just showed up to pick it up.
Why are you there? No, he didn't.
Because he's on a different planet later in the movie.
Is that good gangster sense? You know what I mean? So you send your boys in to do a coke deal, And then you're sitting outside waiting to pick it up at the warehouse when they come outside.
He should have been out in space. At the very most, he should have been in orbit, like waiting.
I mean, it doesn't take much for them to jump the ship.
The
next minute they're back at, you see them arriving, or they fly in, and then next minute they're in the lift. That you can do quick cuts like that to show travel in Star Wars. It's been done a million times before.
Yep. So I didn't like that, but I do like Dryden Voss. I do like Paul Bettany, and so they arrived there. There's this weird Return of the Jedi special edition musical number going on with this chick with a microphone like attached to her face
and a puppet.
I like that.
and a
weird.
puppet.
I like the. I actually prefer the Jabba thing in the special editions. So I'm strange that
You're
way.
crazy.
Yes, I do.
Oh God, I hate it.
I just think it works to kind of show a different side of the universe and really
the original
be kind of
musical
out of
number,
place, but totally in place for a gangster's den where there'd be lounge singers and shit.
But it's like too long.
Here's my issue, and this is a couple months ahead of time talking about Return of the Jedi, but since you want to bring it up, the original musical number in the original version of Return of the Jedi was fine. The extended musical number in the special edition in 1997, I was 12 years old. Even I smacked my hand to my forehead and said, "What the fuck is this?"
I disagree with you. The first one was stupid. I mean, that's basically all it did, right? Where and you've got Max Rebo, you could see the strings in his hands going up and down on the piano. For me, it didn't even work as well as the bit in the Cantina in A New Hope was better than that. I thought,
God.
and yet they've got 6 years later
I cannot
to make
wait.
it better.
Let's see. We got June Rogue One,
Yeah.
July
the new trilogy ones are going to be
New
the
Hope,
best. It's
August
well,
Empire, so September. Me, you, and Brian Brantley talking Return of the Jedi. That's going to be a great conversation. It's a fine scene overall, though. The musical part is neither here or there. I didn't care for it, but it doesn't ruin the scene. And Han meets Kira again and finds out that she did eventually get off of Corellia. And it turns out that she's actually kind of not a slave, but she's indebted, almost like an indentured servant to Black Sun that helped her get off of Corellia. So she's kind of indebted to Dryden Voss, who has
definitely
kind of
she has done and seen some shit.
Yes, and she has definitely proved herself worthy to be what he calls one of his best lieutenants or something like that.
Yeah, I think she was.
Like she's more badass than Han.
Yeah. And I don't remember if it's here or later they drop the Terrace Kasai.
It's later on that she comes up with that
later.
because when she
she
disables somebody in the lab. Where
thing.
did that come from? And that she's like, "Oh, Dryden Voss taught me Terrace Kazi." Now I'm old enough to have actually bought the game Star Wars Terrace.
Yeah, that's just from the game and not a book. Right?
No, it's a game, and it was a fighting game.
Yeah, I remember that game.
So it was like
Masters of the
you'd be
Terrace
Han
Kasai. It
Solo
was a 3D
versus
fighter game.
Darth Vader, and I'd just beat him up and stuff like that. It was so bad. It was just one of the worst fighting games I've ever played in my life. It was garbage.
Almost as bad as Airgees, which had like Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy in a Final Fantasy 7 in a fighting game. But they're going there basically to apologize to Dryden Voss that, hey, we lost the shipment that you hired us to get Beckett. And they come up with this plan. Han meets Kira again, like I said. Again, I still don't feel the chemistry between these two at this point. This is the second time that we get to them. Cam, what do you think?
I don't think they're supposed to be now, because they're very... Han notices that she's not like what he would expect when he saw her again. He's expecting to go back to Corellia, rescue him, and she's going to be like, "Oh, Han, you rescued me," and fall into his arms, and she's not like that at all, and it kind of takes him aback a little bit, I think, as well. He's not jumping straight in there for a kiss. He's a little bit standoffish. He's like, "Okay, we don't have that relationship anymore." So I think there's deliberately not any chemistry there at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
feel like she's leading him on.
Yeah,
but she really isn't. She knows what she has to do.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying romantic chemistry. I'm just saying those two together, I don't buy their interaction. It feels off. I don't want to say it feels bad. I just want to say it feels off, and that might be due to reshoots. I don't know.
Maybe.
But they learn that she's involved with Dryden Voss. We get the meeting with Dryden Voss, and Han starts doing the Disney spin.
That's always
as I've
Han,
come to call it.
Still think.
What's that?
That's typical Han, where he's like
Nah.
trying to talk his way through it, and then he's being helped by the other two guys, where he's like Saxophene or whatever the fuck the planet.
He was a
Yeah.
high-end space pirate once.
Yeah, but
This is early, like speaking.
He's not.
speaking
To be
his way out
fair,
of
he hasn't
situations.
learned. He's
He
not
says
pirated
he's been boosting
anything.
land speeder since he was
Yeah,
12.
but
man.
on
He should be at his
Corellia,
prime.
so he doesn't know about this. This is the high-end game he's getting into, you know, and he's just
cocky
trying
and
to
thinks
talk
he's doing a good job.
himself out.
I still feel this feels exactly like the scene on the freighter or cargo ship or whatever he fucking had in The Force Awakens, where he's dealing with the dudes in red and the dude that is
Yeah, I know what you mean.
God, that scene.
I
where
think
he's
it's
like,
different.
Oh, there's nobody left to swindle. You know, I'm sorry to make fun of accents,
No,
but
listen,
love
I don't
that
like
scene
that. But
that
Solo,
scene right there seems exactly like this, and it's like there's no character progression whatsoever for Han Solo. Disney doesn't
yeah,
get it.
but that's
feel
a
like that's
character
perfect Solo
progression
too.
issue. I don't think that applies to this movie Solo, where they're exploring the early character of him, and he's leading up to the point where he becomes what he is in A New Hope, you know. And you still have to remember that Empire Strikes Back, which is my favourite film, is filled with moments where Han Solo is bravado about something and it goes tits up in his face, you know. That's a big part of the comedy in Empire Strikes Back. So, you know, I think he has always had that little bit of bumbling, but not quite Indiana Jones level of, you know, just I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'll land on my feet kind of thing, which is part of the Indiana Jones character. So I think where it would have worked for me is if they'd have started him like that, but they had made him more confident, learn quickly as he moved along in the film. But I think as we get towards the end of the film, he's not really improved any. You know, he's still
Even in New Hope, I would say he has less of an idea than Empire. Like the scene where he's like, where everyone's fine, everything's situation normal. How are
one of
you?
my favourite scenes.
That's a completely different situation, though. Now he's dealing with actual military, and he's involved directly on the ground versus being a pilot and a pirate, a smuggler. You know, now he's doing infiltration. Like when I watch the OT, I'm imagining this is the first time he's done infiltration this way. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of forgivable for him. We're all right. We're all good. No, don't come in here. There's a radiation leak.
Yeah.
Like I
Fair
buy
enough.
that. But this is him just talking shit with another shit talker. I
Or
just
even-
expected him to be a little bit better.
The scene added to back into A New Hope Special Edition
With Jabba?
where he's being smooth and trying to be like, yeah, I'll get you your shit later.
Yeah, but
And he
he's
was way
proper
more
smooth
smoother
though. There,
there.
you know, it's
Yes.
there's that
Yes.
confidence,
But it's still, like, doesn't
overconfidence,
buy him
almost
much.
arrogance. You know,
Yeah.
but he's not bumbling
So-
when he's talking.
No,
to
he's not bumbling
Jabba,
at all.
so-
And that's my
Then
thing is
I'm
Han
kind of
Solo's
agreeing with you here, Kel, but I'm disagreeing with you because I think it's okay at this point in the movie. But
I
you know,
guess
I mean,
maybe. I don't know. I think you're wrong.
yeah,
because.
that's fine.
But they decided to go and do this other heist. They're going to go to Kessel, which has apparently the only source in the entire galaxy
Not guarded
of
by the
coaxium.
Empire. Not, they say it's the only planet not
Yeah.
controlled by the Empire that has it.
Exactly. So they're going to go there to Kessel.
Under the spice mines of Kessel, because they
under
still have the
the
spice
spice
mines.
mines.
They didn't
They
completely
did-
drop
they did
that. I
mention the
noticed.
But they
spice
couldn't because that's
Uh,
canon to the films, isn't it?
That's
It's
canon.
Literally,
Yeah.
That's one of the first lines
Yeah,
in
and
A
A
New
New
Hope.
Hope,
We'll
yeah.
be sent to the spice mines of Kessel.
Yeah.
C-3PO, you know? I didn't like them using Kessel. They did it so they could tie into the Kessel run that Han Solo mentions in A New Hope. That's the only reason the coaxium's on
yeah, of
Kessel.
course.
That
it is.
one I thought wasn't necessary.
I didn't think it was
but
necessary.
I knew it was going to happen.
In fact,
again.
I would have liked to have seen the Kessel run in maybe a sequel or something like that, actually, rather than at
Yeah,
that point.
at his prime.
I
At his
don't
prime.
think that was the right time to
Nope.
bring in the Kessel run. No.
Not at all. So the first thing they need to do is get a new ship because they've lost their other ship. So we finally get to meet Lando Calrissian, played by the absolutely enjoyable Donald Glover, who I actually liked as Lando Calrissian. Nick, just one or two sentences, Glover as Lando, yes or no?
Yes, I love it. It's fantastic.
Cam?
Yeah, love him. Great. Perfect
Good.
casting.
So we're all in agreement. Donald Glover does a great job. He gets the mannerisms, the sound of the voice. Bravo to Donald Glover. Love it. Absolutely love
it. It's Han.
Yes.
All right, Han.
Which he called.
I love
is a
the
throwback
little
to Empire
kind of
Strikes
things
Back.
between them. Actually, that was at the
Yep.
point I liked it best. But I still think there's something in me that thinks they should have scoured the world looking for the perfect actor to play him. I think someone else that had a better chemistry, that relationship could have really worked well. But
Who, Han?
Yeah, I just
A better
don't
actor for
think.
Han?
I don't think he's a bad actor. Again, I'm not getting that. It's
Yeah.
not his fault. They chose him for the role. I don't think they chose
Yeah.
the right person. I think he was chosen more for his looks than how he comes across.
Possibly, but yeah, Donald Glover did an amazing job. I absolutely thought he was a delight. They play a sabacc game, and Han's trying to win a ship so they can go pull off this heist on Kessel. You learn that Lando's definitely a grifter. He's a con man himself.
A cheater.
Yeah, not only that, but he's a fucking cheater at sabacc. And
also a very
Han,
Western-y thing, I think.
Yes.
This
Han
is
gets
my
a ship that
favourite
he-
scene in the film, I must say. So
It's a pretty damn good scene. It is. Han
Subverting
bets a ship that he
expectations,
doesn't
yeah.
have. Yeah. Han bets a ship that he doesn't have. Lando takes it against his own ship that he doesn't mention which type it is, but Han mentions which type of ship he has, which he doesn't really have. And then we get to, so Lando wins the hand of sabacc after Han has kind of shown that he's a bit of a hustler. Lando cheats, wins the final hand that Han goes all in, plus a ship. Lando calls. Lando wins because he's cheated, and we even see the sleeve device. And in the EU, they called it a skifter. And sabacc or sabacc, however you want to refer to it in the EU, is actually played with more digital cards. The cards have like digital faces, and somebody can kind of hack into the computer system that's displaying what the value of the cards are. And a skifter is more of like a hacking device.
that seems too
Than it
easy,
is a-
to hack
It
in that
does,
way.
and
you
I'm
know.
not
This is
against.
easier to
I just
explain.
can't imagine
Yeah.
Las Vegas, adopting
I'm
that.
not
They're going to
against-
be like, no, this is going to make our job harder rather than easier.
Yeah, I'm not against how they decided to do it. I was just kind of putting that out there for information purposes. I'm not against it whatsoever. There was actually a website for a while where you could play a digital version of sabacc.
Oh, you can do that in Knights of the Old Republic, too. I used to do that all the
It's
time.
just poker.
Yeah, and
You know,
I used to like
Yeah.
that. It was very similar to
It's
poker. It was
poker.
kind of like mixing poker and
there's no point in playing a made-up game when poker
can't
actually works.
But
You know,
anyways.
but for an alien universe, yes, you don't want it to
it was
be
just something I
actual
wanted.
poker,
Yeah.
but that's
Fuck
what
you,
it is.
Cam. I'm pointing shit out that's fucking Star Wars geekiness. You do know what?
But again,
website
this is
we work
just
for.
money making, isn't it? It's like, right, how can we make a card game? Well, basically all we'll do is we'll copy the rules
Yeah.
of poker, but we'll
And
change
like I
the
said,
symbols, we'll
I'm
call it
fine
Star
with-
Wars, and we'll make money off it. Money, bitch, money.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm fine. I'm fine with what they did in this movie. It's cool. But Lando goes to collect on his ship that he just won from Han, and that's when Kira and Beckett, who both know Lando Calrissian, come in and they're like, "Well, let's hire you for a job instead. We'll give you a cut." Beckett commits him to 25%. And we get introduced to L3, which is Lando Calrissian's droid, so to speak. She's not really his droid the same way R2-D2 and C-3PO belong to Luke Skywalker and eventually Han and Leia Organa Solo. But she's working with him. She's a partner with him. And
I feel like
one
she
of the-
still belongs to him, though.
She's
She's feisty, but he's like, I would wipe her memory, but she has the best star map.
It's interesting how they try to balance that she's this droid freedom fighter, which does have some EU history. There was a set of droids that rebelled against their human
it's
masters.
the IG,
they're.
wasn't it? Those ones in the EU.
I think he was one of them.
I want to see
uh,
that movie.
they-
Django with droids.
not just human, but sentient creatures, I guess, living creatures, living masters. And there was a droid rebellion. So there is some EU stuff to her, but hers feels a lot more. It feels at times, not all the time, but at times it feels too woke, I guess is the right word. I'm not quite sure. I'm not very
I get what you
politically
mean.
correct.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It feels too much at certain points. But one of the very first jokes we get comes with the Clint Howard, who is Ron Howard.
His Star Wars cameo.
Yeah, the credited director of this movie. Ron Howard was chosen to take over for Christopher and Phil. And he comes out and he tells L3 after she's like, talking to these robot fighters. It's like fucking battle bots. Hey, I'm going to release you. She releases them. Clint Howard comes out and he's like, I'm going to flip your switch. And she's like, good luck if you can find it. Legitimately, Star Wars just had a clitoris joke.
I know. I like L3 a lot. So, because she's both. I know you think she's too woke or whatever the term is.
She's too human.
That's what I like about her. I don't know. Like, I like that. I don't know. She's not just a symbol for slavery with droids, but she's a symbol for like feminism and women being put down and stuff, which I actually appreciate.
She's not a woman. You can't have a woman droid.
Well, they stopped. They stopped putting women down when Star Wars was, or when Lucasfilm was purchased by Disney, because in the EU they make a point, especially out of the Empire. The Empire is sexist and racist. But in the Disney Star Wars, the Empire and the First Order have women and aliens. They get rid of some of the most evil stuff of the Empire being all about human males, basically. Being very sexist and very racist. And here they are trying to shoehorn in some additional social justice issues. And it was okay to be anti-slavery. Absolutely be anti-slavery. Be anti-droid slavery. Be anti
but that
Wookiee
raises
slavery. Got that?
so
but
many
the fact
questions.
They made a clitoris joke in a Star Wars movie?
Droids are not people, though. They are represented in the Star Wars universe as being property and not really wanting to necessarily. None of them have expressed any desire. I mean, what would 3PO do if you gave him freedom?
Yeah, not in the movies, at least. You're right.
He'd die.
He'd just walk about going,
He'd be disassembled by Jawas.
He needs a master.
So it feels forced.
Like
it
he's
feels
the
like
most
a
independent, and he
issue.
feels, as if he still needs to have a master. He needs to have a purpose. A machine's built for a purpose. It's not a human being that can make its own decisions. If you build an astromech droid, the only thing it can do is stuff that you build astromech droids for. If you build a protocol droid, the only thing, a battle droid, so on and so forth, how much intelligence you give them is down to the programmer that programs them. They've got gonk droids, rebelling towards the end. This is kind of almost walk about going gonk. It doesn't work for me, this whole kind of I think that would have to be explored in a different way for me as part of a movie about that, about a droid that becomes self-aware and actually does question these things for itself. And I don't think that was the right place to bring it into that movie.
I can see your point, Cam. Nick, respond to Cam. Ow.
Oh, about the droids and shit?
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree. Because we're not in, like, Westworld territory here.
No.
Yeah.
Where it's like, they're human-ish and stuff. Yeah, they all have a purpose, and most of them wouldn't survive long without some type of human relationship.
I mean, they're toasters.
So, and I'm just going to say this, we wouldn't have the population we have if people couldn't find the switch. Just going to say. Just going to say. That's a horrible stereotype. There's plenty of people that can find the switch. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I laughed.
Yeah, it just doesn't work for me.
It just doesn't fit that particular joke. There's additional things I didn't care for the character, but that particular joke just turned me off the character, and it's like, that's not right for Star Wars.
I mean, I liked the character sometimes when it was just an antagonistic and not very nice droid. It was just narky droid. I'm all for that. That's absolutely fine. My problem was with her having this deeper motivation as well that goes along with it. I'm not sure if that's the right thing for the character to have.
So that brings us, they go to Lando's ship. Lando agrees to this deal with Beckett to help them get the Kessel Run, and they keep calling it the Kessel Run. They say it like 5 or 6 times in a movie. Even though you would think the Kessel Run would be about spice, not coaxium, they're still calling it
I suppose they're going to Kessel, so they call it a Kessel Run.
Yeah, I guess.
It's whatever you're taking off the planet and how short a distance you can go.
I can see that. Just when I think of Kessel Run, I'm thinking spice,
Yeah, I always thought it was about spice too, but obviously they're fitting the hyperfuel thread.
So we meet the Millennium Falcon for the first time, which is fairly new looking, and it's Lando Calrissian's pride and joy. And Han Solo falls in love with it. Yeah, but I absolutely hate seeing it in this movie because it's different for the sole purpose of selling a toy. Nick, did you have an issue with the changes to the Millennium Falcon that they made? And do you think it was solely for the purpose of selling a toy, which it was?
No. I don't have any qualms with it, especially since they lost the escape pod in this movie.
Yeah,
and they banged it up so much they stripped off like all the blue paint.
Even though they mention escape pods as having been launched in A New Hope, so that means there was other escape pods.
But Lando installed a deluxe, escape pod. He wasn't going into one of those shitty wee ones like that you climb inside. His would have a ship and room for a few capes and stuff like that.
Or Han added more because they didn't have the main escape pod anymore, and that thing is probably expensive.
Yeah,
that's
again,
big.
also
you
possible.
Fit them all in that.
Do either of you guys, so legitimately, do either of you think that the changes in the design were solely for toy sales, or do you think it was legitimately story?
I think they both always work together in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
they were
I think they could have sold a toy
Falcon.
just by showing it all being new, sleek, not bashed up. Like the covers are all on it. Inside it looks much brighter and cleaner. So that's still a toy opportunity. I think they put the escape pod in the front because they had that idea later on, that they wanted to do. I think that's why they did it, and I don't necessarily know if that was the best way to do that, but that I think that's the reason for doing it, personally.
Okay. So we get to Kessel, and the whole point of going to Kessel is to get raw coaxium, which they will have to get to a refinery very quickly because coaxium is very volatile. And
Savarine.
What's that?
Planet's name they're going to is Savarine after Castle.
Yes, they're going to go to Savarine, which was mentioned by Chewbacca during the meeting with Dryden Voss on that mountainous ice planet. So they get to Kessel, and the goal is that Kira is going to pose as somebody that's selling a couple slaves, Han and Chewie, to the people that run the spice mines of Kessel, sell them as slaves, like I said. And they're going to go ahead and infiltrate, break free, and steal some coaxium and bring it back to the Falcon. Lando stays on the ship. L3 goes with them to help hack into the computers and stuff like that. Nick, what did you think of this heist, the heist of the coaxium on Kessel?
Well, you forgot to mention that Beckett gets to wear the outfit from Jabba's palace.
Yes,
later on,
the bowish thing.
Yeah. He's wearing the same thing because they've just kept it on the Falcon. I mean, there's all kinds of that kind of stuff, even in the prequel movies. I mean, the sequels where you see the ball that Luke was trying to train with.
Yes.
But I like this scene, except for I do not find the droid / Wookiee. Well, I guess the Wookiee rebellion makes sense. I kind of hate the droid rebellion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unnecessary part of the heist, I feel. The rest of the heist works for me.
I was actually bored by this because we'd already had a great, exciting train heist. This almost felt tedious to me. Cam, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I agree with you both. I thought it was tedious. It went on too long, and I think it went on too long because they put in the droid revolution and the Wookiees. I didn't think that was needed, that they had to have a place for the Wookiees to be in there. I just don't get... What was the dramatic point of that? Did that do something to Chewbacca's arc in the movie? I don't think it did. So
not really.
I just don't understand why they thought, well, what do you know what would really work for this if we put in the the Wookiees in here? I'm just not getting where they come up with that. I really don't. So no, for me, I really don't like this heist. Again, as Nick says, the heist itself is actually fine, but the droid part, the Wookiee part, I don't like. I hate the way the Wookiees look. Was that a female Wookiee or a youthful Wookiee that's not shaven yet? Because I didn't like the bald face. It looked like something out 2001.
One looked like a female Wookiee for sure, but I mean, some of it just looked like Chewbacca at the beginning, where there's caked in mud and shit because they're in these Kessel mines.
No, but it's got no hair in its face at all.
Yeah, it was weird looking. It was definitely
skinny, and I don't know. I just didn't get it. It just didn't make any sense for me whatsoever for to have that part in the film. And actually, one of my complaints is that they don't spend enough time just flying about the place in the Millennium Falcon doing cool shit with Han as a pilot, and to spend more time there means less time in the Falcon at the end, which is actually one of my favourite parts. You know, which we'll get to, is the actual escape. And I would have liked to see that be longer, more detailed than that heist. I would have liked it just kind of went off quite well, and the problems really kind of started from it. You could still have destroyed L3. You could have had that happen, and that's what causes the delays, etc. But I just don't.
And the Empire could still show up.
Yeah.
Because that's a big moment, is the blockade, which happens because of the rebellion, but you still don't need the rebellion to get that.
No, you can just have an alarm issued or something like that. Although, why? I mean, if the Empire don't control... This is why it being in Kessel was a fucking stupid idea. Because if they had made that on an Imperial place, you know, and it had been getting in and having to fool the Empire and stuff like that, that might have worked quite well. And then there's no need to explain that blockade afterwards either.
Yeah, but why is the Empire
there? Is the Empire there? You know, they just turn up, oh, we've heard there's a rebellion. It's okay, Captain, we don't actually control Kessel, so they can rebel all we want, we don't give a fuck. No, we're sending a fleet in. Yeah. You know, I've heard they might be stealing some coaxium. It's okay, we've got planets making us go out. Shut up, we're going. Okay, sir, we're going. I don't get it.
It doesn't... It doesn't.
And actually, do you know, just with planning that a little bit better and not saying, no, we have to go to Kessel because we have to get the Kessel run in. As Kel says, that just doesn't, and you said as well, Nick, it doesn't need to be there, and the film could have worked better if they had just removed it.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go ahead and talk about L3. During the beginning of the escape from Kessel, L3 gets severely wounded, severely destroyed, torn apart. She gets blown up, and Lando gets shot trying to help rescue her, and Chewie has a moment with another Wookiee. The other Wookiee, or Chewie, some Wookiee fucking helps carry Lando and L3 to the Falcon. Kira and Han, everybody gets back onto the Falcon, and L3's being destroyed. And here's one of the other moments where I almost walked out of the movie. They talk about a droid who is a computer and how they have to transfer her consciousness to the Millennium Falcon, which is a very, very incredibly weak connection to Empire Strikes Back, where C-3PO looks at Han and says, I don't know where your ship learned to communicate. It's got a very strange language, something along those lines. Computers can have strange languages. You look at Apple versus Android versus Windows. They all three use different operating systems. So, and the fact that neither Han nor Lando in the original trilogy ever mention any type of attachment to the brain of the ship, I found it complete garbage that they're like, L3's now a permanent part of the ship.
I paid a lot more attention this time, because the other times I got that her brain was in the ship. That wasn't the case at all this time when I watched it. They don't do it immediately. They do it when they need the map. It's not like their solution is to plug her in. It's like, oh shit, we need a map. And then they only say they're uploading the maps. Like they kind of make it clear, I noticed this time. They're not uploading her higher brain function or like her memories and stuff. They're just uploading the maps.
I thought they were just uploading her.
No, I was mostly the map. They don't make they make some kind of comment.
He says, you said that L3's got the best navigational system in the galaxy. Let's use it, kind of thing. So there does seem to be a
which
purpose.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's take it from there.
So I don't think
Why make a big deal about it then?
Did they make a big? I'm not sure they did. I mean,
No,
they
they had to
don't
do it
say
really
like,
quick.
"Oh, this is L3 now." You know, you're part of the ship. They don't do anything like that. They just say they're putting the map in, and then they
Lando
make
doesn't wanna
no
give up
other
the body.
reference to the fact that L3 is now part of the ship at all.
Maybe it was the Lando interactions with her before, like when she's shutting down, that made me
Yeah,
think it was more.
Yeah, because
that's
he's
what it is.
actually
Because she's like
caring
even
about her.
cradling it when they need to plug it in.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I guess that's a little bit better. That's not how I took it. That's not how a lot of people
Well,
took it.
that's not how
especially
I
when
took
the movie
it,
first came out.
Like the first 15 times, but last night I kind of know I was paying extra attention last night. I'm like, oh, they didn't upload her entire consciousness.
Okay, well, that's good. That's better. If you both feel that way, that they didn't install her entire consciousness, that's definitely a much better thing. Yeah, I like that better. Maybe I'll go back to Netflix because I definitely do not own this movie and never will own this movie.
I got
Maybe
on
I'll go back to
4K.
Netflix.
I know I'm a 4K player.
So they escape, and now we're on the Kessel Run. They say, "Hey, the coaxium's going to blow up if we don't get to what?
Savarine.
Savarine. There you go. If we don't get to Savarine fast enough, it's going to take 20 parsecs." And Han's like, "Oh, we could take a shortcut through this storm." So in the EU, Kessel was surrounded by this cluster of black holes they called the Maw. And in the Maw is where the Death Star was actually designed. Not on Geonosis, but that's the EU. Neither here or there. Anyways, in this movie, there's a storm cluster, a intergalactic or galactic storm cluster called the Maelstrom, and I think there's a black hole, but
Yeah, there's a black
They talk
hole.
about a maw. It doesn't
The
look
maw's
very
the fucking
black.
creature.
No, they specifically
No, the maw's
say
the black
the
hole, I
maw's
thought.
the Maw is the black hole.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't
Okay.
look like a black hole in any way,
It's
shape,
weird.
or fashion. I thought if they'd actually made it look like a black hole, that might have worked a little bit better.
What?
It looks like a hurricane.
Well, what I find interesting, the stuff around it, yeah, is that this isn't a J.J. Abrams one, but the black hole and the creature being devoured by it are almost identical to the effects in the first Star Trek reboot or prequel, sequel, whatever.
the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah, the first Kelvin timeline film.
So yeah, let's talk about this escape a little bit. It's another high action, exciting scene. Han Solo's in the pilot seat now because Lando has been hurt and he's a little distraught over L3, I guess. Kira tries to be the co-pilot, but she's not doing as well. Beckett goes to operate the dorsal gun or the underside gun. I don't think it had both guns, top and bottom, in this movie.
No.
But Chewie ends up taking over for co-pilot, and there's an Imperial blockade. I'm okay with the escape up until the giant space monster. Nick, what'd you think?
I'm okay with all this scene. I don't know. I don't have any major complaints or major compliments about it. Yeah, it's just fine. The Kessel Run is a lot cooler in my head compared to the other moments that I did enjoy. So, yeah, it's serviceable, but it's not. It's one of the weaker parts of the movie, I think.
Cam?
I like the start of it because I really like space battles, and one of my what I love about Empire is when the Falcon's getting chased, about everywhere and Han's having to fly away, and it felt like that for a little bit when they're flying through and the TIE fighters are chasing them and everything like that. After the TIE fighters were gone and the monster appeared, and then they're just kind of frozen in the spot with a black hole for too long while they work out they're going to put the coaxium in. I actually don't like that. And again, if they hadn't have made it Kessel and it had just been them having to escape, like there's some reason, like they're in the middle of rocks and shit and they can't just jump to light speed, they've got to get to a certain point before they can do so, and Han's got to use his piloting skills to get them through. Would have worked a lot better for me. And I don't think they would have needed then the whole coaxium thing. You'd also thought, could they not have just like at that point when they see the thing just jump to light speed, and that could have been a little bit like, we can't jump to light speed in here. Yeah, we can, and he just bangs it, and because actually, getting away from a black hole, okay, this is getting into physics, and I know Star Wars doesn't really do physics, but a black hole, light can't even escape a black hole, and that.
And it was
has no
definitely some
mass
light
and
escaping
travels
this
at
black hole.
light speed, so a ship would only get away if they were able to go faster than light, enough power to shoot them into hyperspace in my instance.
Hyperdrive is technically an FTL drive.
Yeah, they've never called it light speed in Star Wars.
Yeah, they actually say
hyperspeed.
you've got to make
They
the jump
have.
to light speed, in New Hope.
It's kind of contradictory. In the EU, it's faster than light, but in the movies,
it has to be faster
Han's
than
we
light
can't jump
for them to get anywhere.
Yep.
But Lucas probably didn't realise that when he wrote the first film
Yeah,
and just thought, go the
definitely.
speed of light. But even at going at speed of the light, it'll take you 20
You thought
years to
parsecs
get
was
to
time.
our closest
Yeah.
star, So it's not really
And
Star
it's
Trek.
like
They go
X-Wings.
multiple variations in the warp is like
Yes,
light
with
speed
warp
1
drive.
point something, and then warp 2 is
Yeah.
a factor of that again, and it increases as it goes on. So, and even then, they're. But I know Star Trek's more scientifically tries to be accurate. I get that, but
Star Wars made a small attempt in A New Hope when Han says the Falcon can do 0.5
past light
speed. Yep. So, but neither here nor there. I get it. Star Wars and physics don't match. X-Wings can't make the maneuvers they make without some sort of directional jets, which Battlestar Galactica, the remake series, actually used, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's this giant space monster that tries to eat them. And a black hole that's trying to eat them, and they use the coaxium to create a wave to ride, and this, that, and the other. And the Millennium Falcon escapes. They get to the planet with the S name, which you guys have said like 4 times.
Savarine.
Shits to fucking remember it. Savarine.
just remember it sounds like tangerine a little bit.
Tangerine Savarine. And they get there to give the coaxium refined, meet Dryden Voss, and complete the deal they made with him. And here we get like the triple cross. And Nick, I want you to go ahead and walk us through them arriving to Savarine, and when Kira kills Voss. Go ahead.
Okay. I love Han's plan. I think this is where you always say Disney Solo, it was too bumbling and stuff. This is where I think Disney Solo like comes into his own, and he's like, I got a plan, and it does trick everyone. So they arrive, Infant's Nest talks to them, and they're like, oh, we're just people who have had our plants destroyed by people like Crimson Dawn. So they're all feeling a little sympathetic, but not Woody Harrelson, so Woody Harrelson takes off Beckett. But then Han goes, to pull the double cross, where he makes Dryden Voss think that he's brought him fake coaxium, so he sends all of his units to go grab it from Infant's Nest, and he has the real coaxium there, and half of his guards are gone. I really, really like the fight scene with him and Kira, and Dryden Voss, kind of blasters versus his lightsaber knives thing, and all that fun stuff. And then
Vibroblades.
Yeah. And, of course, Woody Harrelson comes out as the guy who betrayed them. And then, I don't know, I really think it's a great finale and one of my favorite scenes, kind of all of it, including her killing him. But I didn't,
because
Darth Maul could have been better. Someone else.
Yeah, because she's working for somebody that's on top of Dryden Voss.
Well, she's not necessarily, I got more of the feeling that that's how you move up in this world.
Yeah.
Is eventually you kill the guy you're working for, and suddenly you're the person talking to Crimson Dawn's Darth Maul or whatever.
I guess. Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
I like
what'd you
that
think?
completes
Go
her journey then, and breaks Han's heart all the way when she's like, "Oh, I'll meet you out there. Let me grab some jewels or whatever." And then she's like, "Well, I'm in this world now. Like I've grown up past Han. It's time for me to take my place."
Yeah. Cam, what'd you think of this triple cross type thing going on?
In terms of Han's plan, absolutely fine, same as Nick. In terms of Kira's arc, absolutely fine. Yet at the same time, this is my least favourite part of the film from start to finish, because I despise Enfys Nest being this redhead girl who's, she's jumping about in speeders and she was kicking the shit out of Beckett at the start, and I just don't like that whole shoehorning in, there's a rebellion coming, almost feels like fucking Game of Thrones Winter is Coming, do you know what I mean? And everything that they set before A New Hope, rebellion's coming, you know what I mean? Like, we get that. Rogue One dealt with that, we understand where we're going with it, but I just don't think you need to shoehorn that in there. It would have been, and the purpose of shoehorning it in there is solely so that Han makes a good choice in the end that isn't just for himself, and he does the right thing, so he lets them go away with the coaxium because, there's these kids and they're struggling, It's like fucking Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or something like that. I don't like it. It absolutely ruins that for me. I would have preferred them just to be rivals, and that Han maybe doesn't go at it rich, but he gets out with just enough, to kind of start himself to get his way off the planet, and then he goes with his plan to get the Falcon back, etc., which we'll obviously get to. But no, I really just didn't like that, the way they did that at all. But I'm fine with Han's plan. I'm fine with Kira's arc, killing Voss and going to the next person. But like we said at the start, I think it would have been far cooler for Shizor. I don't know how you say his name though. Shizor.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
I've
to me.
always said Shizor. That's one of those.
X would be
things,
Z for me, like Xavier. You know what I mean? So Sizor or Caesar.
So it's actually from a Portuguese version of X, which is she. Yeah, I read that before the podcast.
Right.
I'm very similar to you guys. It's kind of one of those scenes that, hey, yeah, it's there. It could have been different. They could have replaced it with something else, but it is what it is. Han's plan, I do agree with Nick. It is definitely one of the times where Han shows that he's definitely learned a few things.
People are predictable.
Yeah, people are predictable, which is a thing that Beckett tried to teach him, which comes to bite Beckett in the ass. And we get the first instance of Han shooting first, besides the original trilogy. And look, to me that was Disney like, oh wait, shit, we forgot Han's actually does bad things sometimes. So quick, let's show him killing somebody in cold blood.
Well, I feel like that's his turning point after he's betrayed by Kira and he's been betrayed by Beckett. Like that's kind of his fuck it. I'm just gonna blast you.
His life. Yeah, I think he should have been bad considering the life he had growing up. But that's me. Me and you will forever disagree on this, and I'm right and you're wrong.
This is a franchise of hopeful orphans who don't have great futures.
I'm fine with the hopeful orphan thing, and I'm fine with him shooting first and showing that side of himself. What I'm annoyed about is the way that he just helps the kids, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't like that, the way she turns up, she takes her helmet off, and suddenly it's about the rebellion now. It's just out of place in that film.
She's the only kid. You got like Warwick Davis and one of Forrest Whitaker's guys from Rogue
I don't
One
care.
and stuff.
She's the main one. She's the one that talks,
Han has never, ever in the OT mentions anything about the rebellion. He doesn't give two shits about the rebellion. Like, he does all this stuff in hopes of this young girl, the rebellion, and taking down the Empire. But there's nothing in the OT, at least nothing in A New Hope before the Death Star run, that makes you consider Han gives two shits.
Yeah, I mean, she does ask him
about the Galactic
to join them,
War.
and he says no. I get it, but...
Yeah, but then he gives them the shit.
Yeah.
And it would have been more beneficial if he didn't.
Yeah.
Well, then he goes and wins his dream ship, so it's all good, man.
It's all good.
I don't know.
He saves enough to bet against it.
Oh, he doesn't actually. Gets given to him by the character. She says, here's a little bit. You've given us something. We'll give you throw a stone your way as well. Kind of thing. Yeah. Since you're basically stranded here on this planet. One thing I do want to say though, I love the fact that Lando just fucked off.
Yeah,
really
we got a ship.
Was funny.
We got 30 mercenaries in that ship over there. And I do like the line, even though it's a callback. I think it's a callback in a good way, or a call forward, where Lando's like, "I hate you," and Han's like, "I know," and he has his arm over Lando's shoulder. Yeah. I dig that. It's not too much of a
maybe.
I dig it.
I don't know. So Kira kills Dross Dryden Voss, not Dross. And we get our ending. We find out that, Beckett thinks he's walking off with Chewie and the coaxium. Han's waiting there. We get our triple cross. Han shoots first. Beckett goes down. Kira leaves. Han's been, betrayed by Kira. He's left all alone with Chewie, gives the coaxium to the rebellion. And we fast forward to him meeting Lando again on a different planet to play another Hand of Sabacc, where he gives Lando a hug and steals Lando's cheating device, and they go kind of similar to what they did the first time they met playing the card game, and Han Solo actually wins.
And he cheats as well. So
he cheats.
Yeah. Because he knows Lando knows about it, but can't say why he knew about it, and can't complain that he did it. So he actually did it fair and square compared to how Lando beat him the first time. So, actually I like that.
I dig it.
Yeah. So he does that. He gets the Millennium Falcon, and Lando's trying to cheat. Han wins the Millennium Falcon in the hand, and off they go. And that is kind of a cool scene. Lando, you can see he's reaching down under the table, and he's like, "Oh shit, it's not there." Yeah, it's not there. And we get the end of the movie of Han and Chewie flying off, and that's the end of this film.
Yay.
Shut up, Nick. You suck at life, and nobody likes you. So let's go over the last couple talking points. Strongest actor for this movie. Nick, what do you think?
I have a tie, and it's not who you're going to because they work together. I mean, they play off each other. It's not who you think. I like Woody Harrelson and Paul Bettany.
Okay.
I think they play off each other. Like, the one, you need one for the other, not in a Han and Chewie way, but like, yeah. And I almost like the older guard.
Gun to your head, God is watching. Who's more important, or
Woody
who's
Harrelson.
better? Okay. Cam?
Yep, I completely agree with Nick, but because Voss is a far more secondary character, he only appears really twice in the film, and I like him, but as a main character it has to be Woody Harrelson as Beckett, yeah.
This is one of the few times that all three people for this podcast will agree. I also agree that Woody Harrelson's Beckett is the best actor in this film.
I figured one of us would pick Donald Glover.
No, I thought he was
great,
but
he wasn't in it that much. I actually think Donald Glover, if he'd been in it more, might have won that for me. I don't know, but
which
Beckett's
is why
just
I
really
would
good.
like to have seen Han in his prime.
Yeah,
yep,
that's why
definitely.
a sequel could be good.
Weakest actor, Cam.
Oh, I hate that you came to me first, because I said to you at the start I'm having trouble with some of my notes this week, and this is
okay.
One of the ones.
Go ahead and think about it, Cam. You got a couple minutes.
It's the point
Nick,
that I don't think there's any bad acting in
really?
it. I don't think there is any bad acting. I think some characters are better written than others. Some are better characters and acted a little bit better. But there's nothing like. I mean, we've just came for doing the 3 prequels, so it's pick a bad actor. Because it's shocking sometimes. There's nothing of that level in this film, and I refuse to accept anybody saying there's any performance as bad as any number of performances you could have picked at the prequel films.
It doesn't have to be bad. I said weakest. You don't have to be terrible to be weaker than somebody else.
That's why I struggle with it. I'm a nice guy, and I don't like putting someone down.
You're a nice guy. You're European. You're supposed to be an asshole.
I thought we were
you were the assholes. Wait a minute.
No, we were the ones who are the assholes.
It's just shattered my entire
See, Americans
worldview.
believe in personal space and not being too close in line. Europe, well, at least Germans did not, but that's neither here or there.
I think we're more like you than we are Europeans.
What's that?
In the UK, we are far more American than Europe
true.
is, to be fair.
We do come majority from,
differences,
UK
of course,
descendants. Nick, weakest actor, while Cam is thinking, because I'm going to put a gun to his head. Weakest, not necessarily the worst.
Whoever's playing Darth Maul in this version, which I think is the Clone Wars Darth Maul. I know he's barely in it, but get back Peter Serenifritz or whatever his name is from.
They actually they could have got him or something. Did I hear that? Like they were going to get him and then they replaced him. Was it something?
Yeah, they used the Clone Wars actor, Rebels actor instead of the movie actor.
Yeah. I really did feel it was Emilia Clarke. I know you guys might disagree with me. I didn't care for her character. I didn't care for her portrayal of the character. I don't know if it's her fault, writer's fault, or the reshoot's fault. I couldn't stand her when she was on screen for the most part. I felt she was the weakest actor for this movie. Just my take.
She's playing a person who is quite jaded, isn't over emotional, is very sort of held back in what she thinks at times. You know, she doesn't.
That's just your Game of Thrones fan talking.
No, I mean, I think
I know,
she's even early Game of Thrones. She had some issues actually. She wasn't like one of the outstanding actors from early Game of Thrones. I think as the seasons went on, she's improved as an actor. I thought even like in a terrible film like Terminator, she kind of did her best, but she's really not picking the best films to be in. That's what I would say. But I actually think she's a better actor than the roles that she's been given so far. I would actually have to say, because it carries the whole film, I think I've got to go with Ehrenreich.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Kyle would go with.
He's not a bad actor. He doesn't. There's no point where I think, well, that was awful. But I just don't think he has the charisma to play Han Solo. And maybe if
anybody have the charisma?
I'm sure there must be people out there that have got that kind of charisma. But I'm not saying it's an easy task. But you know, they certainly, I think, could have got someone else. But I say that, is that the way the role was written? Is that the way he was directed to play the role? I don't know. Yeah. He's not a bad actor. But he just doesn't sell it as Solo to me. You know, Solo is one of my favourite characters for the OT. He was one of my least favourite characters in this film. So,
yeah. Worst scene in the movie, Nick?
Probably the droid rebellion. Even I guess I guess if you have to lump all the Kessel stuff together, then all the Kessel stuff. Except for the Kessel Run.
And
Same.
Same here.
Well, see, that it's a tie for me with the when they turn up at the end and the rebels give them their sob story. But I don't like that.
Yeah,
those are two sort of tied for me to be able to pick between the two.
It was sappier, but I felt like the Kessel Run suffered more because it was a more important part of the story, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. Do you know, I'm going to change my mind and go the other way, because I think it was the finale, and it gave me a different finale than what I really wanted from the film that I had been sold all the way through. You know, which I know that's expectations, but you know, I think you have to be building up towards something to pull the rebels out the hat, just like that. With any other discussion about it, it was just a bad writing trick for me. You know, let's do this. These guys are the rebels. You know, it doesn't work for me unless you build up to that somewhere else.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't work. Best scene, or correction, sorry. Fixing the movie. Nick, you asked to go first for this, so go ahead and tell us what changes would you make to fix this movie?
No, that's not why I asked to go first. A lot of the stuff we've already discussed. Get rid of all this prequel nonsense that you don't need to see. Like, here's how he gets his blaster.
Yeah.
Here's how he gets the name Solo. Like, get rid of all that stuff. There was a whole scene I wanted to drop. I don't know. There's just entire subplots that could be dropped. You know, kind of streamline it. I agree with what you said earlier. I'd rather see Kessel in a sequel. But I don't know. Overall, I do like it, but yeah, I would also remove, like I said, the droid rebellion and maybe the other rebellion type ties we were talking about. Even though they're not tied as much to the Empire, they're tied more to the organization, the crime syndicates.
Yeah, definitely. Cam, what changes would you make to make this a better
Embrace the darkness, embrace the Western theme, embrace the gangland type stuff, show us Han more as an anti-hero instead of a kind of almost lovesick puppy, I think, at times. I don't like that, and that would have worked for me. And then just execution of a few things. As I've said, I don't think the film's bad, but I think a more exciting finale that was predominantly the Millennium Falcon, and then a smaller triple cross scene would have worked far better at the end. Changing Caesar for or Shizor for Maul, because I didn't like that, and the Wookiee speech, for how they meet, I think just could have been done better as well. So not a lot, but subtle things that would have, I think, made a big improvement in that film. tonally more.
I wanted to see Han in his prime. I didn't want to see a lot of character building, origin story for Han Solo. I wanted to see him in his prime as a great pirate, as a great smuggler, and then definitely the Western darker themes, like Cam said, I can agree with. Cam, your feelings on this movie after watching it a second time?
Mediocre. Very average. Not bad, not great, not something that, but I've not seen for ages. I've not watched Solo. I think I'll put that on tonight. Honestly, I unless I was doing something like this again, or I was having to watch it to analyse it for a story or a discussion or something like that, it's not a film I would just put on for enjoyment, I don't think.
I will say this, I will never, unless I do another one of these types of events like you're talking about, I will never watch this film again. I think it made it would have been a great science fiction movie, but it was a terrible Star Wars movie in my mind. And I thought that before watching it this week, and I feel like that exactly after. Like, to me, it didn't match Star Wars, especially didn't match Han Solo enough. And that's my biggest issues. Nick, your feelings of this movie after watching it this time?
Still my third favorite Star Wars movie.
You're still a terrible fucking
Booyah!
But then we have discussed before, Nick, that you sometimes are getting fed up with the whole Force Jedi thing, and this was very much away from all that. And I totally appreciate that there is room for those stories in the universe. I'm kind of worried that we won't get any now, because the first time they really did that, it failed so badly that I'm worried that we're never going to get any stories that are different genre movies set in the Star Wars universe. So I wish it had been more successful, because it could have created some interesting movies going forward.
We'll see.
But
about Mandalorian and the other Disney Plus show.
That's the one I'm really looking forward to. But actually, as I said, I do think it would have worked better as a TV series. This, and what? If it was, there's one thing about making it better. See, if it was a TV series, I would have played it much slower, and I would have told it from two different characters' point of view. So after they split up, you would have saw Kira's life, and then you would have saw Han's life as they build together and meet back up at that point. So we see how they developed in a different way. Then the separation, and then you could even had them come against each other as enemies going further down the line.
Could have been interesting.
The meeting Lando, obviously the Falcon. It would all felt like we were going to get these moments, but there was more to come afterwards. It would have just worked much better as a TV series for me, and I think, as Nick kind of alluded to, what if it comes back in Disney Plus? I'd welcome that, actually. I would.
It could definitely be better. So yeah, I think we've covered Solo well enough. Nick, we didn't tear each other up as much, other than
you weren't too bad,
a
actually.
terrible person, and nobody likes you.
Thank you. And that was fairly civil.
I cannot wait. I'm sorry. I am looking forward to Empire, but I cannot wait for.
It's not going to be as civil, because I'm going to have took a lot of notes on that one, and I know Jammer will as well. I'm actually wondering where you'll get a word on edgeways on that one, because you know what, me and Jammer we just start shouting at each other. No,
I will
just
be
wrong.
Because I'm one of those people. Like, one of your biggest problems is Luke Skywalker, and I'm like, the Luke stuff is golden in that movie.
I'm
so
not actually too bad. I think that was Seth. Seth hates
Seth
Skywalker.
Hates
he wants Luke to be the hero and demonstrate that. My issue was, I don't know, we're going a little bit off topic here, was my issue was that if you're going to break Luke Skywalker, you have to show us it.
You got to show us
more of what got him to that point, more flashbacks,
which
more about that backstory, more on his relationship with Kylo Ren, and cut out some of the other stuff, and it would actually work better for me to see, alright, I believe that's why Luke got to that point, but I don't know. What did he see in Kylo Ren? We don't know. Who knows? That doesn't make any sense to me.
It'll be fun, because we know people love to have their expectations subverted, especially on Game of Thrones, right, Cam?
I mean, again, I think that is the issue for some people in Game of Thrones. That's not my issue with Game of Thrones, and I think Seth agrees with me on that.
They don't give enough time.
It's the time. It's when you It's when you change something too quickly that it doesn't make sense. And Game of Thrones was never about that. When you've got such a long form story, you just don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And and I think actually it's Star Wars' fault. It's because
my buddy Brian says the exact same thing.
Clearly
they said, "Hey,
if
we're
their
going to get the
movies
Star
out in
Wars money, let's hurry up with
2022.
this."
They've agreed. That's why they've told HBO, no, this is us. Like, we've got a finite amount of time. And I just wish they had said, actually, we're going to move on to a more lucrative project. We are absolutely happy to forgo our rights, and you can bring somebody else to finish the last few seasons for you. Here's kind of roughly where we were going. Carry on, we'll all stay friends, blah, blah, blah. Because that's really, the show needed another, at least one season, and that's with full seasons. Full 10 episode seasons as well for the last two, which they didn't have. And I think it is just absolutely so they could go on to Star Wars quicker, which is just far more lucrative for them, and they want to do movies, they don't want to do TV.
Definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Nick, Cam, thank you both for joining me for the Last Call podcast today. Next month, which is June, roughly around the same time that you're listening to this, you should be listening to this on the 23rd of May. So we're looking around the 20th of June. Look for us to start discussing Rogue One, which will feature Cam Clark once again, and quite possibly LRMonline.com's very own Fox Troilo, who is supposed to join us for the Rogue One discussion. So I'm pretty excited about that. Make sure you guys are definitely checking out LRMonline.com every single day for all of your entertainment news and needs. Definitely check out the YouTube channel for LRM Online, where we've got LRM Ranks It, celebrity interviews, trailer reactions, all sorts of great videos, and of course the Los Fanboys channel, which carries Los Fanboys podcast every Friday, Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast every Monday, Last Call once a month, some Thursday towards the end of the month, and LRM Ranks It every Wednesday. Cam, where can people find you at online?
Yeah, so on Twitter you can get me at LRM_Cam. And if you're looking to get me on email, it's cam@lrmonline.com. And if you're looking to see what I'm doing, I'm usually writing stories on weekdays, and I do tend to chat to the readers quite a lot in the comments, etc. as well. Get some good discussions going.
Good stuff. Nick, where can people find you at?
At LRM_Nick on Twits.
And his address is 123. No, I'm joking.
1234 Fake Street.
Yes, exactly. I was going to go with Main Street, but
okay.
Good stuff. You guys can find me at that Kyle Malone on Twitter, Kyle M at LRMonline.com for email. I do respond to you guys on Twitter. I got a few people that reach out to me often, and I appreciate it. Check out LRM Ranks It videos on YouTube on Tuesdays and podcast every Wednesday. Nick helps out quite a bit with LRM Ranks It, which is great. And thank you guys so much. We look forward to hearing from you guys look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments. Let us know what you think about Solo, and we will be here again next month discussing Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Thank you. May the Force be with you.
Live long and prosper.
Bye.
Asshole.